Hi guys, Nobu is here. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make ramen noodle from scratch. So the ramen noodle is very easy to make if you follow the direction. However, it's also really easy to fail. I mean, if you fail, it's not gonna be like taste bad. It's just the texture is little different than successful one. And the texture, I personally don't really like it. That's what I consider as fail. But if you follow the direction, I think you can make really good, successful noodle. Can you tell why I'm into ramen noodle making?
Yeah, I can, sure. Because when we ended up moving to the countryside of America, there's really no like Japanese products at the markets. Like we have to drive about an hour to reach an Asian market. And even the stuff that is at that Asian market, it's like nothing compared to like what you can find in Japan or like what you could get in New York City. So we just started making it on our own.
Before we get into the recipe, if you can hit the like button and the subscribe button, that'll be really helpful. Right, Miso? Right?
The one tool you'll need is a dough kneading bag. We used to use this, which is a reusable
full circle Ziploc bag.
Yeah, it's like a reusable sandwich bag, like big sandwich bag. But we went and got a silicone dough bag, which you can find at like Amazon or on like cooking websites. And this one is better because it doesn't have the seams like this. So even if you clean this really well, like dough, and the noodle dough can get stuck inside of these seams. But this one is completely smooth, so it's way easier to clean.
And the seam part is really easy to break. I broke a couple of years ago, and that's why I bought a new one. And another tool you will need is pasta machine. My pasta machine is attachment for KitchenAid, but you can get a really cheap one for like $20 to $30. And you will need like this flatten machine and also this noodle cutting machine. So those two pasta machine you will need for this noodle making. Now we're gonna break down the ingredients. First ingredient, salt. It's not necessary to use specific one. You can try to use different type of salt because different type of salt has different type of minerals, and the taste is also slightly different, so play with it. The second one is flour. This can be all-purpose or bread or even whole wheat flour. I like to use bread flour, but for this recipe I'm gonna use all-purpose because it's most easy to get all over United States.
Do you have to use a different ratio of bread flour when you...
No, it's same.
Okay.
And the last but not least, baking soda. I almost said baking powder, but baking soda. This we need to cook to use. Right now, baking soda is sodium bicarbonate. We need to make this sodium bicarbonate into sodium carbonate, which sounds like scientific.
We're doing chemistry up in this kitchen.
Yes, it's not hard at all. You just need to cook it. Those three are ingredients we're going to use. Let's get into the process. First of all, you need to make sodium carbonate. However, if you check in baking soda ingredients, it says sodium bicarbonate. How to make sodium carbonate is you need to basically evaporate the water from sodium bicarbonate. So that's why we're going to bake it. First, I'm just going to take a little bit. Okay, I'm doing 100 grams because I have plenty here and I only want to keep inside of here. So I don't want to overmake and need to store in two different containers. So I only take 100 grams. This sodium bicarbonate is going to evaporate some water inside. So it's look like a powder things right now, but they have moisture inside, and we are going to evaporate those moisture from here. Once the moisture from sodium bicarbonate evaporate, that's the time they're going to become sodium carbonate. Okay, now we are going to start baking the baking soda. There's a two way to do. The first one is just roast on some dried pan. The other one is baked in oven. I am using pan roasting today, but if you make a lot, you should do oven method. But pan method is also works fine, so use either way. Now I'm just gonna placing on top of the pan with high heat. You need to use high heat in the beginning to let the pan temperature go high and then drop the temperature. Once you see this, drop the temperature into medium heat. When you shake the pan and you can see tiny bubble forming from the powder, that's basically the moisture from this powder is evaporating. Once the powder becomes this consistency and you don't see any bubble forming from the powder, that's pretty much done as sodium carbonate. Because bicarbonate means basically there's a water or moisture inside. But now they don't have any moisture, which is probably much lighter compared to the original weight. I put the 100 gram in it, and let's measure how much gram they have right now. Okay, this is the end result. It's about 64 grams, so they dropped around 40 grams. More specifically, 36 grams. So once you bake your baking soda, it's going to reduce the weight and it's gonna become more powdery, so there's no much clump inside. Now I'm just gonna fill into my original case. One thing you need to be careful is this powder, even though you use really high heat to cook it, they don't change color, they don't burn, they don't smoke. Since appearance won't change, it's really hard to tell the temperature difference. So have a high caution about not touching it. Once this powder cools down, it's ready to use. Okay, now I successfully made a sodium carbonate from sodium bicarbonate. In this recipe, I'm just gonna use 5 grams. Equal amount of salt. It passed a little bit, but it's okay. Now you're gonna add 200 milliliters of water, but I personally usually do around 180 to 190 milliliter because that's going to make noodle more chewier because it's less water. In noodle making, if you add more water, it's more easier to form. So it's more likely to success. You might need to sacrifice the flavor. Usually sodium bicarbonate and the salt is take time to melt. So that's why you prepare before your flour. Okay, it's almost perfectly melt. So now we're going to prepare the flour. Today I'm going to use all-purpose flour, but I personally think bread flour is much tastier texture-wise. It's like chewier, but all-purpose flour is also work, so you can use any type of flour. Okay, this is 500 grams of all-purpose flour. This is traditional way to make ramen noodle. If you have mixer, you can use those to do it, but I'm going to make it traditional way for people to understand how to make it. So first, you're just gonna kind of mix the flour to try to break the clump since I didn't shift. Now I'm going to pour one side of the liquid inside, and I'm going to mix it. When you mix, you can see like this kind of clump, you want to break it down as small as possible. It's going to make your arm really tired, but when you eat it, you will surprise how good the homemade noodle is. And then now I kind of like the water, the liquid inside is starting to coming down. So you can add a little bit more. Like I usually add like another 1/3. And then again, mix it like this. Try to break the bigger clump to smaller if it's possible. When you do this, I personally think if you have a bigger bowl, that'll be better. Now I think the bigger clump and the older clump is starting to calm down. Like there's no water in it. So I'm gonna add another one. Like this. This is basically end, and you're gonna mix it. You want to use your hand to like kind of break the bigger piece, because bigger piece is basically have a lot of water, and you want to use the like ripped off part with some powder and then coat with powder so they can catch the powder. And then you're gonna mix it together, like try to rip the bigger piece into smaller piece. Like this is really big clump. You wanna rip it off and then put it on the edge. Usually edge has the old powders. Like what I'm saying powder is like this is still powder like that, and this is forming. So you wanna let the old like liquid going evenly with powders. Now it's good time. You can put this into the some type of the bag. I'm using kneading bag. Now it's all in my bag. Okay, this is how to make with stand mixer. The flour is same amount, 500 gram. The liquid is also same amount. So nothing changed. You just use this guy instead of your manpower. You just start with low and slowly pour like 1/3 amount of this mixture. I'm gonna let it stir a little bit. It's not even 1 minute. Now I can add another part. Another 1/3. Okay, now add last part. Now just let it mix for a little bit. It's not much time. Okay, now is about the time. Okay, now this is the texture you want to get. It's like there's a lot of tiny clump and there's no more powder. That's the consistency you want to aim for. So this tiny clump each has moisture in it, and that moisture is still not stable. What I mean not stable is they are not like equally distributed. When you make into like noodle dough, you want to make all the moisture equally distributed. Right now each clump has different percentage of the water, and you want to make it more even. That's why we're going to put it in the bag and then press. When they press, they're going to get like pressed into like the moisture is gonna get pressed more distributed. So now I'm same as yesterday. I'm just gonna clump together and then put it in the bag. Now the dough is in my kneading bag. I can just like kneading like this, or since it's silicone bag, you can step on it. I usually stepping on it until the dough is formed. Okay, now it's about 1 minute. It's gonna look like this right now. Have a lot of clump, have a lot of crack. This means those cracking part is still dry. They need more moisture. If you see here, this is more whiter part, and somewhere here is like more yellow part. So yellow part is have a lot of moisture compared to this white part, and the white part is still more powdery, like dry. So you need to let the yellow softer part to invade those whiter part. So you gonna do like stepping for 2 more times. I usually do 3 times, like a couple minutes stepping on this. So I'm gonna fold it and then put it back and then step again. Another minutes of stepping and it's gonna look like this. It's more solid compared to earlier, and there's less crack because I'm using my full body weight to push into like softer part or more moisture part into those more whiter part, which is dried part. So now if you touch it, some part is little more stickier than like whiter part. So yellow part is more stickier than white part, and I'm going to fold again and do 1 more time with stepping back. So this stepping method is super quick compared to you gotta knead it with hand, because if you knead it with hand, you might use your upper body weight into each kneading, but if you use stepping, you're gonna use entire body weight, and then you just step side to side like this. Okay, that's the 3rd time though. It looks really flat. There's not much crack. And in this stage, you're gonna put this dough just back into the bag, and you're gonna do rest time. Mine don't have zip, so I'm usually just fold it and then put the heavy side on top. So they're gonna get sealed inside. And what's they're gonna do is once they seal, they're gonna keep moisture inside. I usually take around 4 hours to 10 hours. During that resting time, the moisture inside is gonna distribute entire dough. Because after this like resting dough process, after that, you're gonna use noodle machine to like make it thinner and cut it with noodle machine. But if you don't wait minimum of 4 hours, they're going to break when you run into the pasta machine. So I highly recommend you to at least minimum 4 hours, and you can rest up to like 10 to 12 hours. So how I usually make is I prepare dough in the morning and let it like this, like sit, and then by the time at night, I'm just gonna run into pasta machine and then be able to eat at night. That's how I usually make dough. Now I rest my noodle dough for 6 hours, and this is what it looked like. It's almost yellow, and then I won't really see the crack or white spot. Now I gotta run into pasta machine. Before we do that, we're going to cut it into strip. Now these are into strip. We're going to use pasta machine to make thinner. When you use pasta machine, always start from largest one. It's going to look like this, and if you can see here, is a little bit more wider than this part. So we need to blend this part. So you fold it, press it, and then run into it. Now it's look like a weird shape and wide. So you're going to fold it like this way. One from the bottom, one from the top. And then make sure to press all the way like this. Okay, now it's really clean strip. I'm going to decide the thickness. So for one strip, I'm gonna go with number 6. So I'm gonna turn into number 6 and then run it a couple times. Now if you cut it to noodle, this is little long. So I'm gonna fold it to half. Usually you wanna use around foot long, which is your forearm length. Okay, so this length is ready to cut it. I usually use this type of bowl. Sprinkle a little bit of cornstarch in the bowl, spread it. Then now I can just shred the noodle. Now you kind of mix the cornstarch to let the powder coat it, because if it's not coated, the dough will stick together and then become one. But by using cornstarch, they're going to have like different type of powder between each dough, so they're not gonna stick. And how to store this? I usually use this type of Tupperware. I usually think this as one serving. Once you make this container, you can freeze it. It's gonna taste good for 1 month, and after that the moisture inside is gonna going away, so it's not like not edible, but the taste and the texture is gonna get less and less tasty. If you refrigerate it, it's going to be good for a week, and after that probably it's gonna get mold or something. So if you put it in fridge, eat it immediately, and if you freeze it, eat it within 1 month. How to cook it is, I usually, if you go with my thickness, which is number 6, I usually use really hot water, like boiling water, for 1 or 1.5 minutes. So 1 minute to 1.5. If you like al dente type of texture, 1 minute. If you like a little bit chewy texture, 1.5 minutes. If you want to make it more like a straighter noodle, you can use this kind of flat plate. Catch your noodle like this, and then put a little bit more cornstarch and then mix it. Make sure to have enough cornstarch in between each noodles, so they don't stick when you're saving it. So you basically pinch entire noodle from the center and hold the bottom, twist it, and then place on the plate like this. Okay, here's 2 types of the noodle I usually make. This is the one like thinner, straighter noodle, and this is the thicker. I usually put a lot of cornstarch, and then squeeze together, so they will have like shape. When you squeeze noodle together, noodle will have shape, so it's gonna become like a little pocket for your soup. So when you eat this type of noodle will catch the soup better than this. This one, on the other hand, they don't catch the noodle, so you want to use in like lighter flavored noodle soup will be better use. This one you can use in like a miso or tonkotsu, that kind of like thick flavor. That will be really easy to match up with, because each time you eat, noodle will catch the soup, so it's gonna taste better. Okay, that is my noodle making video. If you have any question, please comment down below. If you think you learned something from this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. That will be helpful. Thank you for watching. I will see you in next video. Peace.